Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive into left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova. Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
You shook up the world again.
I did it again. My God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
You know, the Knicks can be 20-40. They can be 40-20. Whatever they are now, they can be whatever record. It's always going to feel the same when beating that organization. Always going to feel good. And to sweep them in the 3-game season series, making it the first time doing so since the 92-93 season, which was the only other time that happened, under Pat Riley, by the way. That just feels amazing. It feels amazing. There are not many things in life better than beating that organization and having to see those faces walk off the court, having to see their fan base disappointed and having to endure the misery, the sheer misery that Miami Heat fans have had to endure this year. Everything from Butler and that Rozier contract and everything that's gone on with them, it makes me really happy. So the Knicks won last night. That's not the final score on the screen. That's the incorrect score. That would have been nice to see that be the score, but I'll take 116-95. Let's fix that real quick. I will take 116-95. Let's fix 117-90 would have been even better, but 116-95 was your final score as the Knicks dominate the loser Heat. Last night at Madison Square Garden. First game back from the West Coast trip. And it didn't look so good to start. But the Knicks did figure things out. And once they did not look back. Safe to say. So I want to talk about this game for a few minutes here in this show. It's probably not going to be as detailed of a show that we normally have, just because I've got some things to take care of today. Don't have all the time in the world, but as I'm coming at you, it's Tuesday morning before I have to leave, and I just want to talk for a few minutes about what I liked last night, what I didn't like, etc. And I think it's fitting to start with a topic that has been a topic for a little bit, even when this guy was not ready to take the floor earlier in the year. I want to talk about these Mitchell Robinson, Karl Towns minutes. Because so far, and granted, it's been a very short sample, but so far, the early returns on playing Cat at the 4 have looked good. They've looked good. Now, it's important to not overextend those minutes and have it become a primary, because there are many trade-offs that you're going to have to live with when you play those lineups, right? And I think ideally that Tibbs knows this, although he, the way he spoke about it last night, he does love the lineup. But I do think what you saw last night, where Mitch played 25 minutes, which I think is what you're going to expect to see going forward, that'll be the range. What you saw last night was probably on average what you're going to get now that Mitch is going to be fully extended, or as they were closer to that. And that was, I think you got 10 minutes of that lineup. So ideally, I'm hoping that's like the range. It's going to be 8 to 10 minutes a game where it's Cat at the 4 out there with Mitch at the 5. Hopefully even less against the Boston Celtics for obvious reasons, but it's a lineup that works in short stints against certain matchups. And I think it's a lineup that you have to go to with OG or shooters on the floor over Josh Hart to maintain a semblance of modern spacing, right? And to Tibbs' credit, last night, when he went to the Mitch Cat lineups, he did go to it with spacing surrounding them. He went to it with them two next to OG in the second unit. And then the other half of their minutes, it was them two with Mikal in the second unit, right? So it was a stint where Mitch and Cat played with OG, Shamet, Campaign. And then it was a stint where they were with Mikal, Camet, and Champagne. So it looked good. I'm going to say it again, just because I think it's important that we understand why this needs to be in moderation. Towns playing the 5 has to be the primary, and I'm talking, again, 80% of the game, because of issues that will amount otherwise against certain teams, and it gets really noticeable. But you want Towns at the 5 primarily still, because it allows him to get off more 3-point looks, since when he's playing the 5, he's going to have a big on him in drop coverage, versus when there's a wing on Towns, he's going to be tighter on him on the perimeter. That's when Towns prefers to drive the closeout. He'll drive as opposed to shooting when he's got a small. When he's got a big, the big's in drop, Towns is going to take that 3. That's important. You want volume. It also keeps the Brunson Towns pick and roll as a threat when the big is on Towns, because a big in drop coverage gives Brunson the open space to knock down a 3, versus when you get the wing switch, right? If Towns has a wing and he comes into screen pick and roll for Jalen, that's not a favorable ISO for Jalen. And just the fact that you'll have less interior players on the floor is big, because the driving lanes will open up with less gap help. So I just think, even with the defensive problems, and they are problems, Cat at the 5 still must be the primary way, because the offensive trade-offs when he's not at the 5 aren't good enough, especially considering that the defense probably won't be as elite against teams like the Celtics because of their 5-out pick and pop offense, and we know how Mitch can be there. But you just need Cat at the 5 because of the offense, and you just have to hope that he's more active in drop coverage, that we do see some more switching against teams like the Celtics. You've seen Cat handle Tatum on an island. He's done a nice job of that. But yeah, Mitch and Towns last night, they were a +1 in the 10 minutes they got. And on the season, they are a +46 net rating in the 19 minutes they played. So The early returns have been extraordinarily positive. And again, I'll reiterate, it's important that it's with 3 other floor spacing players, right? Any combination of Mitch and Cat with Deuce, Mikal, OG, Brunson when he's back, Shamit, Campaign, that's the route you want to go with, right? And I will say that Mitch with Towns is still much better than Precious with Towns, because Mitch is a real center. He's a real 5. So he's always going to be on or around the dunk spot. Whereas Precious Achiuwa, we've seen time and time again when he's out on the floor, Tibbs is not using him as a real 5. Tibbs is using Precious spacing weak side corner. And that kills the Knick offense whenever Towns is posting, because with Precious, the defense is going to pre-rotate off the weak side corner to the post where Towns is, since Precious is not a threat to shoot. Why would I care if he's on the corner? He's not going to shoot or knock it down anyway. Let me completely ignore him, act like he's not there. We can play 5-on-4. But with Mitch out there over Precious, since Mitch will be on the dunk spot, the defense can't commit to the post because Mitch is a threat right next to the basket. And you saw a prime example of why Mitch works at the 5 next to Towns versus Precious playing next to Towns. You had a possession in the middle of the 4th quarter, and I'm sure there are a couple of possessions that really showed it, but this one was clipped by somebody on Twitter. Cat was posting Kyle Anderson. So he's got the small on him. He's posting him on the low block with Mitch on the weak side dunker. Bam Adebayo on Mitch was unable to commit to the help off of Mitch because he's on the dunk spot. So Cat gets an easy hook finish. And so that's the way. And there are ways to make it work offensively. You got to be near perfect with some of the execution and process stuff, but movement, motion, off-ball motion is going to play a big role in those lineups, right? Empty side actions, empty pick and rolls, clearing out ball side to eliminate help. There was a 2nd quarter possession. Towns makes a baseline cut to the ball side to clear out the empty side. That removes help for, I think it was a Campaign Mitch Robinson pick and roll. Mitch now has the open roll with no help coming from the empty side. Forces the big into a drop because there was no tagger. Bam has to tag. Mitch had an open roll for it. I think it eventually resulted in Cam just chucking up a deep 3 and knocking it down. But point being, relocations and movement to create those scenarios where the Knicks can get to an empty side action can help in those lineups. You don't want to see those lineups that you saw in the 2nd quarter where it was Precious and Hart next to Towns. That continues to be a nightly occurrence, and I understand why he's going to it. I don't agree with why he's going to it. It shouldn't be difficult to find Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby those minutes in place of Josh Hart there, right? And in the 2nd quarter, those guys were out there with Towns, and it was gross, but obviously Towns being an incredible scorer, just an absolute bucket, bailed Tibbs out with that lineup as he went on his 2nd quarter run there. But the only time I think Hart with Towns can work as long as Deuce is out there with him and Precious is not out there with them, or Mitch. Hart, Towns, and Deuce has been a net positive all year for the Knicks. It's been one of the better lineups, in fact, in the NBA. Right? And I think that's not only because Deuce McBride provides gravity, which will eliminate help, but Deuce McBride can take on that point of attack role. And when Deuce McBride is defending at the point of attack and Mikal Bridges is not, you're getting better defense, and you're also letting Mikal take on less of a workload, which can help him offensively. And we saw that in this game. And we continue to see that. So, yeah, that's all to say that the Mitch Cat lineups have worked so far. And I think in moderation, it will continue to work. And the Knicks last night, they finished with 116 points, a 121 offensive rating. Without Brunson, they're continuing to try and find their way here. And obviously, as I said at the top of the show, at the beginning of the game, it was everything but pretty offensively. Miami goes on, was it a 12-0 run? I know it was 9-0 before they called the timeout, the Knicks, but I think they stretched it to a 12-0 run. And you could really see the Knicks missing their point guard. There was zero creation on the floor. They were running their sets. They were running horns, delay, floppy, pick and rolls. Like, they were doing their offense. They were running through their offense, but there was just no execution. There was no creation. And there were moments throughout the first half, especially in the second quarter, where Mikal Bridges, I thought, despite having Tyler Hero on him, lack of touches. Didn't really get what he should have been getting. But as you got to the second half, and, it wasn't just Towns going off like he did in the second quarter. It was more organized offense, and Mikal Bridges was incorporated in half-court offense, right? Pick and rolls for Mikal, wide pins, split actions where he was slipping the screen. That's become a staple of Mikal Bridges' offense, where he's able to read the coverage and beat the coverage. There was a possession in that third quarter. Tyler Hero shows, Mikal makes that read, slips the screen. The Knicks find him for a basket at the rim. Important stuff like that. OG, who had himself a quiet game, but I want to see them continue to go to him on the post to generate offense. There was a Deuce McBride corner that he knocked down in the third quarter that came off an OG post-up, right? And it's important when OG is posting that when he's on the floor with Josh Hart, it's Hart throwing the entry pass, because if Hart's not throwing the entry, OG's not going to be able to see the help coming off of him, right? If Hart's weak side and you have somebody else throwing down the entry, OG won't be able to read the backside help. But I think having OG on the floor as a post-up option will create some opportunities, as he will draw some help, especially if it's against a switch or a mismatch. And then OG as a spacer, right? Continue to see him getting three-point looks up. Having three-pointers go up in volume is going to be super important. Talk about it with Towns, but OG, I think, as a spacer, I want to see him play the 5 more. That would help, having those small ball lineups. You can even do 5 out with OG at the 5. I think you already know he's capable of handling. You already know OG is capable of handling the defense at the 5, which is the toughest ask. That's the big thing. It's the defense at the 5. He's already handled that. I mean, you saw him once again. He was switched to Bam Adebayo, and he did a nice job with it. So, if you can handle that part, you do it. Because OG at the 5 is just, it's the same thing as OG playing wing. So I just think that's an important thing to go to going forward as we continue to play without Jalen. And, and I just think the Knicks are finding their ways. They're 3-2 without Jalen Brunson so far. I could not care less whether you think 3-2 is good or bad without him. It doesn't mean anything. Right now, wins don't mean a thing with the Knicks, because they've got the 3 seed locked up both ways. The rest of the season is about ironing things out, right? Offensively, defensively, schematically, rotations. That's all this is. How will we fit these things into the team when we're at full strength, when Brunson's back? How can we incorporate this action, this style of play make it more egalitarian. Those are the things that we need to be looking at. I don't care about wins and losses the rest of the way because the Knicks are going to win the 3 seed. We know they're going to be in that matchup. So it's just about certain strategies and schemes and again, things like that we'll be looking at in the remainder of the regular season here without Jalen, however long it is. I thought Josh Hart had a great bounce back performance. Hopefully this is one that wakes him up. He was incredible. Late in the third quarter, the Knicks are up just 7 points, so it's still a game. Late third quarter, it was still a game. Miami was in it. But Hart knocks down his patented ugly mid-range jumper. He banks it in. The next time down, he comes off pick and roll with Mitch. No hesitation, takes the 3, knocks it down. That was promising. And the next number of times down after that, just displaying some excellent playmaking and facilitation. He has the assist to Mikal right next to him in transition, flicks it to him. He has an assist to Mitchell Robinson off of a broken pick and roll. He has another assist to Mikal in DHO. And then he's got that drive and kick assist to Shamet in the final seconds of the period with Miami pre-switching the screen off Hart. Mitch screens for Deuce to pick and roll with him. Miami brings 2 up to the ball screen. Deuce finds Hart, 1 pass over on the wing. Hart, catch and go to collapse the defense back line. Kicks to Shamet once they collapse. Shamet knocks down the corner. So it was Hart who really broke this game open and made it an uncompetitive fourth quarter. And the Knicks desperately need Hart to be back. Because, again, without Jalen Brunson out there, they don't have a true second creator. They don't have a secondary creator. Deuce is more of a wing playing the point guard position. Mikal Bridges, we see his limitations when he's on the ball too long. Josh Hart is the closest thing we have to a secondary initiator. So it's important that he's back to being himself. Hopefully he is. But his final line last night, 12 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals. I believe that's now 8 triple-doubles on the season for him to break Clyde's franchise record. So a historic night for him. And again, to recap, late in the third quarter, 4 minutes and change left, I think it was. The Knicks were up 7 points. It was 67-60. Hart goes on this run, and by the time the buzzer sounds at the end of the third, the Knicks are up 24 points. It's 88-64. So Hart leads them on a 21-4 run in just 4 minutes and change. So when we talk about Josh Hart doing Josh Hart things and how that's important, it's stuff like that. The transition play, the cutting in the half court, being able to drive the closeout in the half court, which will either help him get to the rim and finish where he's very creative off the glass, or it can draw help, which will kick out to the corners. It's things like that continue to be important. So it was nice seeing Josh Hart perform well. However, and maybe I'm wrong doing this, I did not, or I am not, handing the game ball to Josh Hart, but instead I'm handing it to Karl Towns. I could have went to Hart. I could have went to Mikal Bridges, who led in points. But I just feel like it was the second quarter where the Knicks were losing at the time, and it just seemed like they were a step slow. That's where it started. Cat got the Knicks to wake up. He got them going and gave them their first lead. The Knicks were down 31-18. 31-18 in the second quarter. Towns goes on a 15-0 run by himself. And he's knocking down triples from range. He's getting to the basket. The Knicks were screening very well for him. He came off of a Josh Hart down screen at the top of the period. finishes. Makes like a gator pass to Josh Hart off a pick and roll. He rejects a campaign pick and roll, drives and finishes, doing a really nice job using screening to get him downhill. But I thought his big second quarter where he went on that 15-0 run was huge. Finishes the game, 23 points, 10 for 17, 3 for 5 from 3. He was a plus 16 in the box score, which was very indicative. Sometimes that always doesn't always tell the story, but the eye test backed that one up. So I thought Towns, just because, again, he got the Knicks from losing to winning, gets the game ball. 14 game balls now on the year for Towns. May as well go to the bench. And among the second unit, I'm going to give it to Mitchell Robinson again. 10 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 24 minutes, season high. I thought he was solid. It's his 4th game ball, Mitch. I thought he was solid. The first half, not great. You can see his conditioning is still not yet there. But he picked it up in the second half defensively. The active hands were very helpful on that end. Soft hands on the offensive glass. I thought Mitch was good. We talked about the lineup stuff already. It was another positive in the box score. It seems like every night he's contributing in a positive way. The Knicks are always playing winning minutes when he's on the floor. He was a +8 in the 24 minutes he played last night. So he was a big part of that defense for the Knicks, where this defense is now starting to steady out a little bit. We brought it up last episode. In their last 5 games now, in their last 5 games without Brunson, the Knicks are 3rd in defensive rating, 105 rating. And in their last 10 games, so some of that's with Brunson, they're 2nd in defense with a 108 rating. So, and during that 10-game stretch, they've been holding some good offenses to low scores. Memphis is a good full-court offense. They held them to 113. Golden State, I know they beat the Knicks, but they're a very good revamped offense. They held them to 114 and 97. The Lakers, again, a revamped offense. I know they beat the Knicks. They still, defensively, they held them to 113. Sacramento, good offense. Held them to 104 points. So there just seems to be more cohesiveness as a collective unit. That's the word I keep going back to this year with that defense. Lineup stuff. The Mitch and Towns stuff is working because it removes Towns from drop coverage, and you're allowed to hide him on a wing. And then, adjustments like putting OG to Bam last night worked. It paid off again. Don't know why that wasn't the matchup from the start, but as soon as Tibbs did go to OG and switched him to Bam, the Knicks went on a run. And OG was able to switch 1 to 5 all game. I mean, he was, on Highsmith. He was on Tyler Hero, smothering him baseline again. That OG, Deuce, Mikal, Hart, Mitch lineup, really good in this game. Some really good defensive production. That's going to be their all-defense lineup. I expect that lineup to play a lot in the playoffs. And you had a possession, I think, late third quarter. It was that lineup minus OG with Shaman on the floor, but probably my favorite defensive sequence of the game, where they were just defending on a string and providing excellent backline help, backline insurance. It started with a Tyler Hero, Kyle Anderson side DHO, Mikal and Deuce switch it. Hero throws the ball to the weak side wing to Larson, and now it's Mitch and Hart who defend a Larson where DHO that flows into a pick and roll. Mitch is in drop. Larson eventually has to reverse the ball to the weak side corner again. The ball swings to Rozier in the wing. Rozier gets past Deuce McBride, but Mitch, who's in paint help, is right there, forces a kick out. The ball swings to Hero up top, who gets by Deuce, but Hart's now there in help, forces a miss. Just one after another, there was help. There was insurance, and that was my favorite possession of the game. It was, again, I think it was late third quarter, sometime in the third quarter there. Just really displaying defense on a string. So that's the way they're going to have to play going forward, with or without Brunson. But that's the lineup I want to see. When it's OG out there with Deuce, with Mikal having length, that's that, and then you're putting Mitch at center. You've got Hart out there. That's your wing stop, right? It's your three wings plus your best big defender, and then you've got your best point of attack defender. So that's the recipe defensively. So that's it. That's it for this Knicks Heat game. Nice to beat that organization. Always nice. And some good things on the horizon. And we'll talk about what I mean when we return. When we return from our break here, we'll talk about what's up next on the schedule for the Knicks. Stay with us. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune into our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. Okay. Welcome back to the show. Episode 824 of the podcast. Appreciate you all tuning in. I don't know why this whole time I did not realize. I don't think these numbers are correct on the screen. This is if you're watching on YouTube. Don't think Mikal had 33 points. He had 28 if I'm correct. But whatever. Let's see if I have this. Do I have this one right? Yeah. All right. Lost my train of thought. Up next. A pretty easy schedule. I shouldn't say pretty easy. A very easy schedule ahead for the Knicks. They've got the day off tonight. That made no sense. They have the night off tonight. But then they do have a back-to-back set on the road starting tomorrow. So Wednesday, Thursday, they're in San Antonio, and then they have to travel to Charlotte. But those are two teams that, especially now without Wemby, you should be destroying that Spurs team. And then the Hornets are the Hornets. Then after that, you've got a 3-game homestand beginning Saturday against the Wizards at the Garden. You're at the Garden against the Wizards. You've got 2 days off after that, and then you've got another back-to-back set where Tuesday, Wednesday, it's Dallas and the Clippers. I know they lost to the Clippers last time. I don't care. That's a team you need to beat. The Dallas Mavericks, obviously, that's a mess over there in its own. Yeah. I mean, so you're talking about, let's see, the Spurs, the Hornets, the Wizards, 1, 2, 3, Dallas, LAC. 5 games right there in a row where the Knicks really should win 4 at the very least. I know they're without Jalen, so I won't say 5-0, but 4-1 should probably be the target. Again, these aren't, I don't care. Like, wins and losses don't mean anything at this point. It would take an utter disaster for the Knicks to lose the 3 seed. You're really just looking for the things we discussed. So that's what we got coming up on the schedule, but you've got the day off today, and then tomorrow you have a game against the Spurs. And with that said, let's wrap this one up with our trivia, and that will be that. In this episode, have I not? Jesus, dude, I have 824. I think this is 825. I'm pretty sure we're in episode 825 here. So I don't think I did any friggin' pre-production. I usually, I'm pretty good with that stuff. That's going to really fucking bother me. 825. We are in episode 825. And those stats are also not right on the ticker there. But, all right. Whatever. Let's get to our trivia. I am a mess. This is why I should pay for an editor and not be so cheap. Here's our trivia question for this episode. Who are the 2 active Knicks that once played for the Heat? Who are the 2 active Knicks that once played for the Heat? Got to think a little hard for this one. But that's our trivia question for this show. Episode 825 is in the books. I do appreciate you all tuning in as always, and I will see you in the next Knicks episode. Yankees fans, I'll see you when I see you. Should be very soon. Opening day is coming up in less than, in almost a week, about 9 days. So that's for Yankees fans. Knicks fans, I'll see you after this next game. Appreciate you all. Later. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.